just the elephant in the room. What's your best excuse? I'm just the elephant in the room. Better think this through. You don't wanna talk about your feelings. I'll be in the corner with the reason. I'm just the elephant. I'm just the elephant in the room.
Hello, and good evening, everyone. So we have a great show going for you this evening, and we got a great guest coming in, and let's get right into it. So we've had a lot of interesting stuff go on over the last couple days this week. It's Sunday, it's a whole new week, right? But we've had a lot of interesting things go on. And one of the most interesting things that ended up happening was there have been some riots in England. And not just England, but Scotland and also in Ireland. Now, these riots are, I guess what you would say, are a continuation of riots that have been going on across Europe. Because a couple of months ago, there were very big riots in France, and Macron decided to call snap elections to try to distract everybody from all of the mass riots. So we've seen this happening, and it's very interesting. I got a couple of clips that I'm going to share with you in a couple of seconds here. And it's very, very telling of what's going on a larger scale in our, what you would call Western nations, right? Like Europe and the US, and the issues that we're having with immigration and illegal immigration. So England's system is a little different of immigration than it is here in the US, where we have these people that are so-called asylum seekers or whatever the case is, when we know that most of that is fictitious to begin with. And there's a lot of other issues where we've got these illegal aliens here. All of them are illegal, but that's a whole separate conversation, because 90% of them are not going to actually be able to claim asylum, and they're not here for asylum. They're here because they want a better life, or they want to see if they can make money, and that's not what asylum is. Asylum is imminent threat of harm due to either you're under threat of violence because of your religion, or because of you're a political prisoner, or something like that. And that's not what we're seeing in the US. But as far as what's going on in England, and they're set up with their immigration system, because they were part of the EU and they have different laws over there, and this has started before Brexit, they've been just letting a whole bunch of people, basically it's anybody that shows up there essentially can stay there. And that's honestly kind of what we've got going on here, except they give them more papers over there. I limit myself at saying papers, really, because we give them to them here too, right? It's crazy. They get driver's licenses and everything. It's all insane. But their laws require them to keep them. So we got some clips going on here. I want to toss this first one out, and we'll show it as it goes. So check this out. So now you'll say, well, what's that? What'd you just show us, Marcus? Well, that is a video of people that are in England fighting back against the police, because the police has been rounding up people for comments and posts that they have made online. I'm gonna say it again. The police have been rounding up people for comments and posts that they have been putting online. Now, we saw something very similar to this happen in Canada when COVID started, and they started to protest against the crazy restrictive measures in a peaceful manner. The Canadians started to lock people up because of the posts that they were putting on the internet. And that was a very serious thing. We also saw in England, not in England, but in Australia and New Zealand, where they were locking people up because of the posts that they were posting during COVID. We saw them locking them up, and even in cases putting them in internment camps. Okay, they wanted to call them COVID camps, but they were internment camps. Okay, and at some point I'd love to show you some video from that stuff, but they like to snatch you off the internet whenever you show that type of stuff. even though it is a real reality that people had to deal with, and they had to be put into these camps. You know, there's a law in New York State right now which allows the state government. We fought this law. It was a whole big thing on that, but it's not even a law, right? It's a health regulation. Now they tried to get it in as a law. They couldn't get it in as a law. So they put it in through health regs, and we got it knocked out in the court system. And then they didn't, Kathy Hochul put an appeal in, and now it's back up. So now she can just lock up any citizens that she feels like it when she wants to, without any type of court or hearing or anything or third party or any of that. And basically, what it does is it's originally started off as the bill A416, which was in the Assembly, and there was a companion in the Senate. It got kicked out of there. They tried to push it through health regs. I encourage you to go look up that bill, A416, and read it. But when it came back under the health regulations, it basically essentially says that if you, and I'm essentially giving it to you verbatim, it is this foggy. If you maybe might have possibly come in contact with somebody that can be considered a threat to public health, that they can hold you for an indefinite period of time, and they don't even have to tell anybody where you are taken, and they don't have to give you a lawyer or anything. So that's very, very concerning, because it says that if you may have possibly come in contact with someone. What does that even mean, right? If you may have possibly, who is the judge of that may have possibly? May have possibly come in contact with somebody that might have been. Are you serious right now? Might have been? Now, at the same time they do that, you have to be understanding of the language that's used in these type of documents, because they're very, what you would call, litigious, right? So that's law type documents, right? They try to word the language very foggy and fuzzy, and that's a very serious issue with a lot of legislation. Or they'll call something pretty, and really it's something terrible for you. And we'll get into another bill that's going on that they're trying to pass later on. But with that bill, with that, again, health regulations, they got rid of the bill and tried to put it in through health regulations because they couldn't do the bill. But with that those health regulations, it's interesting, the language, because the language says somebody that may possibly be considered a threat to public health. Well, over the last couple of years, in this time frame, we've seen many things be called a threat to public health on the state level in New York State. They said firearms are a threat to public health. So that means the way that the regulations are written, if you may have possibly come in contact with somebody who might possibly be in possession of a firearm, that they could lock you up. Now you'll say, well, Marcus, they wouldn't do that. Let me tell you this. Whenever you say that the government wouldn't do that, yes, they would. Okay, because we've seen them done many terrible, terrible things. And I use those examples in Canada and Australia as a good example. Now I want to show you this clip right here from the British police, and check this out.
We will throw the full force of the law at people. And whether you're in this country committing crimes on the streets or committing crimes from further afield online, we will come after you.
Talk to me about that, because we have seen some high-profile figures whipping up the hatred. You talked about it in there with the officers, in fact, about this being added to by online commentary. I mean, I'm even thinking of the likes of Elon Musk getting involved. What are you considering when it comes to dealing with people who are whipping up this kind of behaviour from behind a keyboard, maybe in a different country?
Being a keyboard warrior does not make you safe from the law. You can be guilty of offences of incitement, of stirring up racial hatred. There are numerous terrorist offences regarding the sort of publishing of material. All of those offences are in play if people are provoking hatred and violence on the streets, and we'll come after those individuals just as we will physically confront on the streets the thugs and the obs who are causing the problems for communities.
So as you can see, this police dude over there in England is saying, I will lock you up no matter where you are from around the world if you are saying stuff that we don't like in England. Because what's happening is there has been a massive, 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 massive cultural demographic switch, because they've brought in all of these different immigrants. And the issue right now in there is largely the ones that are from the Middle East, the ones that are, I guess you would say, Arabic or Persian Muslims, right? So those are the ones that they really have the issue with out there right now. And what's happening is they're seeing their country, which has once been an Anglo-Christian nation, because they're Anglican Christians over there, as a whole separate conversation. But because it was an Anglican nation, and they're starting to push all of this Islam, they're trying to make it so that the streets and stuff like that and different things are changing to different languages and Arabic and stuff like that. And people just don't want that. They're not fond of that at all. And that's a very, very serious issue. And when we, I shouldn't say we, but when them as the government don't actually align with what the people want in the community, in the nation, then people start to get upset. And what's happened is there has been a lot of crime and things that have happened over there. So because of that, they have been fed up. A couple months ago, there was a stabbing at a school. This guy, this Muslim guy, stabbed up a whole bunch of kids at a school, and it was terrible and terrifying. And that was a very, very, very big issue. So when that happened, people were upset. But now recently, there were these issues where there was another stabbing incident where they said that it was a Muslim guy or whatever the case is. And now they're trying to say, oh, it wasn't a Muslim guy, a foreign Muslim guy, or whatever the case is. Whatever. Apparently, immigrant nonetheless, and apparently Muslim nonetheless. So it seems like the people that have had the issue were right on task. So I don't know why they're trying to lead people to believe something that's completely untrue, but whatever it is that they can do to feed the narrative. Now, I encourage you to take heed of what's going on over there, because as I said, there was also similar revolts in France a couple of months ago. Okay, it got so bad because they don't like Macron because of him letting in all of these people from other countries, that he said that he was going to go swim in the river to show the people that that the river was clean so that they could be ready for the Olympics. And they went and they dumped poo in the water. Everybody was going and dumping their poo in the water because he said that he was going to go in swim in the river, you know. But that just shows you how disgusted people are. And over there in France, I believe it was somewhere out of Marseille's, somewhere over there. I can't remember exactly where it was, but they had a issue where immigrant came over and stabbed up some kids and killed a couple of kids. And they had another one where they were killed in the car, and it was crazy. So, and the one was a dance where they got stabbed up at. That was sad. So very, very sad, right? And this is what the people in these different countries are seeing and why they're getting upset. But then you have somebody that's supposed to be this person that is I guess you would say, a police official coming out and saying that they're going to lock up people online for saying, hey, this is what's going on, or we don't like this, or opposing anything that's going on. And that's a serious issue. But what's worse is they're putting in these laws in the parliament level, that would be like our Congress over here. They're putting in these laws which are restricting what we as Americans would feel are freedoms and liberties. But in America, they're restricting our freedoms and liberties. So we really have to wake up as Americans and listen to what is being done in our government to us as American citizens. But not enough people are paying attention. Not enough people are aware. That's why it's up to me to start to talk about these things so more people can understand what's going on, what's happening, and things like that. We've got to talk about these things. But when you start talking real sense about real issues, they try to take your videos off of online. They try to deplatform you, or they'll try to make it so that all of your stuff is so low down that it's hidden basically so nobody can see it. You know, they call that shadow ban. And we've seen it happen more and more and more and more. I want to show you another video here real quick. Now, this video is going to be very interesting. Check this out. Okay, now you saw that, right?
There's no place for putting spaces in the middle.
So you see all the people running in dark clothing and stuff like that. Those are Muslims that are attacking people. Okay? So those are, again, like, it's not like the African Muslims that are the issue in England. France has more so issues with people in Africa, but still immigrants nonetheless. In England, it's the Persian, Arabic people that are the issue there, that have been immigrants over there. So what you just saw and what you just witnessed is these Muslims from these countries, and for lack of a better term, because I can't keep calling them Persian Muslims, Arab Muslims, whatever, I'm going to call them the people from the sand countries, because all of those countries have lots of sand. Okay, so all of those people from those sand countries are out here running around with knives, chasing them people, beating them up and stuff like that, because the people are now very upset, and now they're rioting and they're trying to get them out of the country. So I did see a video. Unfortunately, I don't have that video clip of some of the people that want the people from the sand countries to go back there. I've seen them trying to set this hotel on fire that's housing these immigrants. So that's a very, very interesting thing in and of itself right there. And it's kind of like, wow, that's how much they don't want them there. Well, they don't want them there because they're causing trouble. They're trying to legitimately convert their whole culture into Islam, and that's a whole serious issue in a country that's not Islamic. We've seen this issue go on in Minneapolis and in Michigan and stuff like that, where these Muslims from these sand countries get on these boards and town councils and mayor's positions, and then they go and they do things like outlaw the gay pride flag. I mean, hey, I'm not saying anything, you know, sometimes you're like, wow, maybe, but the fact of the matter is that they're bringing in essentially Sharia law. They used to say that you shouldn't be afraid of that happening or anything like that, but here it is. It's actually happening. Okay, in Minneapolis, I want to say last year, the end of last year, maybe second quarter of last year, third quarter of last year, they made it so that all of the mosques can put over the loudspeakers the call to prayer over the loudspeakers in the whole public arena, so everybody has to hear it. They're Islamifying America, and they've already Islamified these other countries. And you have to understand that they try to say Islam is a peaceful religion. That is not true. Okay, if you read the religion, it is founded on violence and warfare. Okay, that's how it's founded. You know, Muhammad said, hey, you guys should convert to Islam, and they chased him out of town, and he raised an army and came back and killed every single person there. So that is the original founding of the religion, is founded in blood. So don't tell me that it's a peaceful religion. You might have some peaceful people that practice the religion, but the fact of the matter is when you start instituting the laws from Islam, it becomes very violent and very anti any other religion. That's why you see them have issues with Muslims. The Muslims have issues with Christians and with Jews, because they don't want them in existence in the world anywhere. They don't want us in existence. They want to take over the world. That is the goal of their religion. That's not something that I made up. That's actually what it tells you in the Quran to do. Okay? And they want to tax you out of existence or convert you or kill you. Those are the only three options that you have. And I'm not with it. I'm not with any of them. But right now, what we see is when people start speaking up about these issues, it's very serious. And nobody wants you to actually talk about it. They'll try to paint you as, oh, you're Islamophobic, or oh, you're what do they call it? Scared of immigrants. What are they trying to term it now? Xenophobic, or whatever the case is, blah, blah, blah. First of all, don't call me that. I just don't want anybody in this country that's not from this country, because we have enough issues as our own situation is going, and we need to work on the issues inside our country internally. Right now, we have a collapsing social welfare system. Welfare is collapsing, financial welfare. Okay, EBT and what do you call it? EBT is collapsing, and I forget, why is it slipping my brain right now? But food stamps, there we go. Food stamps is collapsing and stuff like that. We've got Social Security, which is collapsing. And all of these things are being now given to illegal aliens, people from other countries, foreigners that aren't citizens, that aren't entitled to anything in our country, aren't even entitled to our Constitution, aren't entitled to any rights here because they are not citizens. And now they're trying to get them to vote. People, we need to wake up. As they strip away our rights, our liberties, our freedoms, as they take away your ability as a parent to decide what your child should do, as they take away your ability to speak freely of what you believe and know to be true, or anything that is against the narrative that the government is pushing. If we don't start speaking up against these things, it's going to be complete, what would you call it? Subjugation, right? Complete. Right now, we're seeing our people getting stomped on by our government, continuously stripping away our rights, freedoms, and liberties in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights as it was given to us. Now, I'd like to say this about the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is not saying these are your rights. The Bill of Rights is protecting our God-given rights from the Lord, our Father in heaven above. That's what the Bill of Rights is about. And we need to understand that. But as we go further and further from that, they try to condition us as Americans. Oh, don't say this. Don't speak up against that. Don't say that, or you're not being nice, or you need to be PC or something like that. No, the time for that is over. The time to be bold is now. The time to stand up is now. The time to speak up is now. It's not later, because people haven't spoken up enough is a reason why it has gotten so repressive in America right now, and why it's being more repressive all across the world, especially in westernized nations. And if we as the people do not stand up, then we're going to slowly be eroded from anything that we know as normality, as our ability to have rights, liberties, and freedoms. They're already coming for the Second Amendment. They come for the First Amendment. They don't want you to have free speech. They don't want you to be able to redress your grievances with your government. You can't talk about Jesus in public. They don't want you to talk about Jesus in public. These are very serious issues that we need to talk about, but they don't want you to talk about them publicly. I got one last video here for you. Check this out. Let's see. It's really interesting.
You
Check
better
this out.
wake up.
The immigrants can come into this country and get a stipend, link, a free room and board, free child care, and some of them are getting Social Security. And when my ancestors were released from slavery, they got the clothes on their back, but yet they were told to be happy. So why am I and everyone in this country footing the bill for people who are non-Americans, who don't vote, who don't fight in any of our wars, who've never paid a tax? And we're told that if we say anything, we're xenophobic.
Great question.
Tell me why.
Great
Tell
question.
us all why.
I
want to know.
I think it's wrong. I mean, it shouldn't happen, but this is a U.S. immigration system we have that is broken.
As migrants continue to arrive in Illinois, the state is planning to spend an additional $182 million in the next fiscal year on assistance, on top of the $648 million it has already.
In New York State, they just passed the budget a little while ago, and it was $2.9 billion additional outside of what they're already spending on these illegal immigrants to put towards these illegal immigrants. This is a very serious issue. That money is money that should be going to the American citizens in the struggling communities, the families that are having a hard time struggling to feed their families, their children, okay, that are having difficulty with rent and car and everything, because everything is so expensive. People that are American citizens are giving up on the American dream because everything is so expensive. But as it is, they continue to give free money to illegal aliens. Somebody please make it make sense. But while they do that, that is really a trick, because what's happening is they're using these illegal aliens as a mask for themselves, so that you focus on one thing while they're doing another thing. While you focus on these illegal aliens, at the same time, they're trying to reinstitute the draft, okay? They're trying to make it so that they can limit your freedom of speech, what you can do on the internet, and implement social credit scores. I don't want this video to be taken off, so I would encourage you to go look up CBDCs, that's central bank digital currency. They're trying to push that in our country so that they can be able to more so see what's going on with the money that you're spending, how you're spending it, and then it'll give them some ability to control that. Again, I'm not going to get into it too deep because they'll try to bump the video, but go look it up. Go look up the digital dollar. Go look up the FedNow app. That's it. Go look up the FedNow app. Just do that. And if that doesn't alarm you and alert you to what's going on, you really have to start paying attention to a lot of this legislation. They've got some serious stuff that's coming from New York State in the state Senate and in the state assembly that is stripping rights from parents, that is stripping rights from you as an individual. It's stripping your ability to speak up freely. It's stripping your ability to have your own religion. And these are very, very serious things. And it all boils together in this new constitutional amendment that we're coming up on, that's going to be on the ballot this year in November. People are calling it Prop 1. People are calling it the Parent Replacement Act. People are calling it the Equal Rights Act. Now, I'd like to point out that we already have an equal rights clause in our actual Constitution for the state of New York. So why do we need to change it? It's perfectly fine. It encompasses pretty much everybody. And we know when you start trying to make things more specific, that is when you start making things worse, because you're now segmenting things much more. So as we start to talk about that in a real serious conversation, we're going to bring up the lovely Sash, and she is from the Coalition to Protect Kids New York. She's going to tell you about herself and what she's doing and what the work that the coalition does. Sash, how are you? Are you here with us? Let's bring you up. Let's see.
Hi, Marcus. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, loud and clear. There you are, clear as day.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good, good. Glad to have you.
So, yes, I will just get right into first who we are, the Coalition to Protect Kids New York. We are a nonpartisan ballot issue committee registered with the New York State Board of Elections, and we were formed solely to raise awareness across the state of New York so that our fellow New Yorkers are aware and informed about the proposal that will be on the back of the ballot on November 5th. So as you said, Marcus, it is called several things: the Equal Rights Amendment, the Equality Amendment, the Parent Replacement Act. It is, the title feels good, right? Nobody is not for everyone having equal rights, their protections. That's not what this is about. This is about helping New Yorkers to understand the full composition of the proposed amendment, what they're proposing, and what it actually means should this pass. So again, the Coalition to Protect Kids, we were formed strictly to address this ballot issue, to raise awareness. We are comprised of regular New Yorkers like you and I that along with organizations that endorse our efforts to defeat Prop 1. We do not want Prop 1. We reject Prop 1. And I'll tell you why. So first of all, our legislators, they in 2022 and 2023, which is the pathway to amend the Constitution, the proposed resolution needs to be voted on in 2 consecutive legislative sessions. So that already took place. The legislature in 2022, the majority voted to pass it, and the same thing happened in 2023. So the final step in amending the New York State Constitution would be by popular vote of the people. They need to bring the vote to the people. And if the majority of the people in New York vote yes, it passes. And the amendment will be modified to include their proposed changes, which includes about 11 new protected classes. So again, this isn't about not wanting anyone to have equal protections. We already have, like you said, an equal protections clause. We are guaranteed protections. Our protections are guaranteed by our state constitution and our federal constitution. So there is no threat there. What is happening is, like you said, a segmented society where these 11 new proposed classes would have more protections than people that do not fall under those classes. So how is that equal, right? What we want to do at the coalition is just inform people, right? We're not about parties and candidates. We don't endorse candidates. This is not our mission. Our mission is to raise awareness and inform people. A lot of times, the presidential election is so sensationalized that New Yorkers forget about the local politics, the things that have more impact of their day-to-day life than necessarily the president. And this is a big deal. So I'm going to just share with you I'll share with you all of the proposed new classes, new categories. So currently our Equal Protections Clause, it states that no person shall, because of race, color, creed, or religion, be subjected to any discrimination in his or her civil rights. So they're proposing additionally ethnicity, national origin, age, disability, sex, which includes sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, pregnancy outcomes, reproductive health care, and autonomy.
Well, that's that. But why would that ever be necessary?
It's completely unnecessary.
That's what it seems like. Yeah,
it's completely unnecessary. But what would happen? Should this become enshrined into our state constitution is that it completely empowers the judicial branch. That's another branch of our government. It empowers the judicial branch as well as schools. Let's just call it what it is, government schools, to have more authority over minor children in many instances than their parents. With the not being able to discriminate against age. We think of that all the time as a good thing when we consider our seniors and some of the special, some of the guidelines and guardrails that have been put in place on a statutory level to protect our elders and our seniors from abuse or predatory practices or discrimination. But here in this proposed amendment, all of these classes, this language is extremely vague and it's extremely broad. So age is not just about our elders and our seniors, protecting them or not. Age is clearly cradle to grave with no definition and no boundary. So here at the coalition, what we are very concerned about is the usurpation of parental authority, parental roles and responsibility in guiding, protecting, and navigating their minor children through their life. If we are not discriminating against age or having any safeguards for our minor children, and we're not in this language, there seems to be no guardrails for minors, no safeguards for parental rights, we'll have a situation where minor children will have consent and the right to make very detrimental decisions for themselves without parental notification or consent.
Detrimental decisions? Is that like being able to smoke cigarettes because now they can't discriminate against them for not being able to get a pack of cigarettes? What's that like?
Well, because the language is so broad, it's definitely up on the table. Do statutory rape laws get weakened now because we can't discriminate? Can minor children consent to life-altering and irreversible surgical or non-surgical procedures because we can't discriminate against age or sexual orientation or gender identity? So there's a lot of unanswered questions here, right? It's broad language, pregnancy, reproductive healthcare and autonomy, pregnancy outcomes. Does this mean that minor children can elect to have abortion services, even late stage, second, third trimester abortion services without parental knowledge or consent? There's a lot on the table here. And what happens, Marcus, is when something this broad sweeping is enshrined into our Constitution, when a conflict arises, we have to go duke it out in court. So it empowers the courts to make decisions based on how they're interpreting this language.
Now, go on.
No, so there's also a clause, a second paragraph in the proposed amendment change. And this one kind of, it says that nothing in this new proposed section shall invalidate or prevent the adoption of any law, regulation, program, or practice that is designed to prevent or dismantle discrimination on the basis of a characteristic listed in that section. So now here, it's not even about laws. It's not even about legislation. Now we're talking about regulations, programs, or even practices. Well, we know there are a lot of practices in place now that are geared to, quote unquote, support some of these proposed classes or categories. Should a parent, let's say NYSET, the New York State Education Department, they have practices in place already that tell the school administrators that they can keep parents in the dark about things related to their minor child if the child chooses that. This is a practice. This is not a law. But if this amendment were to pass, this clause, this second paragraph B, is pretty much saying, if a concerned parent were to challenge even a practice, they could be deemed as interfering with the civil rights of one of these protected classes. So it's very concerning, this amendment and what the language is suggesting.
So you mean to tell me, with the way that this is crafted, if somebody were to say, like, there is this concern that pedophilia is being normalized, that there are people that are in our institutions, both in education and in government institutions, that are slowly eroding the what you would say the thought that pedophilia is bad, which is the reason why we have statutory ages in our nation. Not every country has that. Up until, matter of fact, I'm not even sure if France has one. I know a couple of years ago, there was this young lady raped, and she was only 13. And then they decided that they were going to try to put forth a statutory law where you had to at least be 13 to be, no, she was 11, and they wanted to put in a law that said that you had to be at least 13 to consent to sexual intercourse. So, but this is France. This is a modern westernized nation, and they didn't have a actual statutory law or any protections for the youth when it comes to that. Now here we hear conversations in America about, oh, well, people shouldn't get married young, or they should live their life and they should have fun. But what I've realized is that in the school system right now, they have, over the last couple of years and decades or two, have been pushing this narrative, oh, let a child be a child, let a child stay a child. Well, it turns out that now, because the education system has been directed that way, we are graduating what should be adults that have the mentality of very young, prepubescent children, not even adolescents. And they're just not cognitively aware of certain dangers that most of us normally would traditionally be like, oh, well, that's probably not a good thing. And it may have even been made worse by what we see now with social media. Now, that being said, that concept being pushed of let a kid be a kid, let a child be a child this whole time, now they're starting to say, oh, well, youth should be able to consent to intercourse with adults, right? Now, for me, that is a concern, okay? And I take it like this. Certain people have certain issues with different parts of that, but my concern is this, is if you are purposefully limiting the mental advancement of the youth and bringing them about to what you would consider an adult frame of mind, how can they cognitively be prepared to say, yes, I consent to intercourse with, if they're 12, with a 39-year-old or something like that? How
they can't.
Yeah.
Just like they can't cognitively sit with a doctor and say, at 9 or 11 or 13 years old, yes, I fully understand the risks and benefits that you're maybe described to me, right? Because I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
And I am okay with you performing X, Y, and Z intervention on me, or X, Y, and Z medical procedure, or whatever dental procedure. This includes transgender, surgeries or hormone blocking therapies. This is what these minor consent laws and these initiatives are imposing things on children and intercepting the parents' God-given, like you said in the beginning, authority to guide and protect their minor child, because that parent could be deemed as doing something unconstitutional should this ERA pass, because they may be interfering with a new protected class's so-called civil liberties. So this is a big deal. The state government could totally have more authority than parents in making important decisions for children. Children under the age of 18 could have the right to irreversible life-altering procedures without parental consent or even notification. Could this amendment legalize on-demand late-term abortion, including for minor children? Yes, it could. With schools, now that's a practice that NICED is exercising right now, where they're choosing to consider this a best practice, where they'll let the minor child depict or determine if they want their parents involved in critical information about their life and their experience in school. So should schools not disclose to parents that their children may be struggling with their sexual identity or anything else? No, they shouldn't. Wow. Should we erase girls' sports? And should we allow biological males to compete against biological females in school sports without restrictions? Many would argue no. Look, the churches and other religious organizations further eroded regarding beliefs that run contrary to these newly protected rights in the ERA. So, this is about raising awareness, helping people understand, because the proponents of this proposed amendment, Prop 1, they are pushing it as a women's rights amendment, abortion rights amendment, and that's all they're talking about. Abortion rights are not threatened in the state of New York. So that's a little misleading. It's I would argue deceptive, because there's a whole lot of other things that are baked into this proposed amendment that are not being shared by the proponents, allowing and keeping their base low information so that they are misled by pretty much taglines.
Wow. So people are falling prey to this concept that it's for equal rights and it's about abortion access, and they're not being told the whole story, which, as I'm getting you, starts off with, because we're a deep blue state, and because of the fact that abortion is already enshrined in law, and the fact that it's also, unfortunately, I don't know how to say this, but it is what it is. It's popular among people in New York State that it's not going anywhere. But they're trying to tell people that this is desperately needed to protect abortion. And so they're deceiving a lot of people. That's what you're saying.
Very, very much so. And leaving a whole lot of other important information off the table. So a parent or someone that is pro-choice, that believes, hey, abortion laws could be repealed at some point in time. If it's enshrined in the Constitution, we're further protected to have our abortion rights. Even if that was the individual, if that were their position, if they knew, in addition, because it's not an either or thing, it's and. The abortion components of the proposed amendment and the other challenges to the roles and responsibilities of parents and the protection of minor children against these endangerment, quite frankly. A person would not choose their abortion and to also give up their parental authority if they knew that this is what was entailed in this. So we just want to help people understand it's not all sweet as it's being depicted. There are some very significant ramifications should this go forward. And kick it back to the legislation. Vote no on Prop 1. Let them create a piece of legislation that's strictly about abortion. Don't muddy the waters with other classes and other language that at the same time encroaches on parental authority or exposes minor children to danger. It's not an abortion bill. If they wanted it to be that, they would have definitely written that. They want to do exactly what they're doing. It's a misnomer. It's deceiving. It's misleading. And we just want people far and wide across the state to just give this some thought. To even they don't even know that they're going to face Prop 1 on the back of the ballot. They don't even know, much less understand what it represents. So this is what this is our mission.
That sounds pretty challenging. If a lot of people don't know, I know a lot of people don't flip over the ballot, and they definitely only have a very brief, teeny amount of text on there that doesn't even really cover what the bills are. How do you spread the message that people need to vote no on Prop 1, which is going to be on the back of the ballot this year? How do you get to different families, to different churches, to the religious community, to the synagogues, to the mosques? How do you get this message to the people that need it? And how can people help you get that message out?
Absolutely. By having these conversations like the one that we're having on a large scale across the city, across the state. The Coalition to Protect Kids is a statewide initiative, greatly fueled by volunteerism and town hall events, podcasts, interviews, meetings with different committees, political committees, parent groups, people that have an extension to their community groups. I would encourage anyone in your audience, as well as yourself, Marcus, to visit our website, protectkidsny.com. It's a resource, a great resource. It's constantly being updated with current information around this issue, as well as this issue. We're focused on New York right now, but this is going on around the nation. This is a national dilemma. This is a pandemic. So the
Might be
coalition,
an understatement.
the Coalition to Protect Kids, protectkidsny.com. If you want to support us in any way, you can join us as a volunteer to present this information in your neck of the woods, in your regions, your churches, wherever. We will support, prepare you, and make sure that you're well versed on the issue, as well as have handouts so that you can give information for people to walk with, that they can follow up with and share the news that you've provided with them. You can also donate if you don't have the physical capacity to get out in the streets with us about raising awareness. You can help fund the campaign. After November 5th, we go away, and when we leave, we hope to take Prop 1 with us as defeated. So this is about trying to ensure we all do our part with radiating this information outwards.
It's very important, I think, that people get to hear this voice. I was at a event the other day, and I saw the Women's League of Voters, and they were actually, now this is supposed to be a nonpartisan group, and they're not supposed to, they pride themselves on that, and they're not supposed to participate in pushing any agendas or anything like that. But I saw them putting forth this Prop 1 and saying, oh, it's so good to people, and oh, it's so good, and that very much so is interesting, because it seems as though a lot of people have been galvanized and moved towards trying to tell people that this proposition that's going to change your constitution, it's not just a law, people, it's going to change the state constitution. And once it's in the constitution, it is aggressively difficult to get out of the Constitution. It's not impossible, but it's almost impossible. So if you want to see this stop, we got to stop it before it gets in there. It's going to be very, very important. If we move towards this whole concept that everybody can do whatever they want at any given time, that is the founding philosophy of Satanism. Okay, that is the whole concept of what they put forth. We saw the thing at the Olympics the other day where they mocked where they mocked the Last Supper, and then they had Dionysus up there, and people were like, no, it's the Feast of Dionysus. Well, Dionysus is a god that essentially is a god of debauchery, depravity, and gluttony. And this is what these type of laws that they're pushing into our society right now. And it's not, again, not a law, it's a constitutional amendment, so it's way more serious.
It supersedes the Constitution, supersedes all state laws, codes, all of that. It's a big deal.
It's a big deal, people. So we've got the website. What was the website?
It's what the courts are bound to uphold. So this is where we see that should this pass, the courts will be so empowered to disrupt family systems, because we as parents are losing our standing should something like this go forward. Right now, although a lot of these practices that we're concerned about are happening, biological males are competing against biological females already. Schools already overstepping their boundaries with minor children and keeping parents in the dark. All of this stuff is happening. It's not constitutionally protected. So should a parent challenge something, go to court, sue, their child was harmed, their child is endangered by these practices, they have standing. If the Constitution guarantees these new protections over these new categories, what are you fighting about? It's constitutional. Yeah. We lose our standing. It's not going to be good. So we encourage everyone to reject Prop 1, vote no to Prop 1. Again, protectkidsny.com. You can sign up to subscribe to our website so that you're getting information and content that we share around this issue weekly. And if you want to, like I said, support us in any way or volunteer on any of our committees, the whole purpose is to get the information out. So use that website as a resource. We have a media tab with published, publications around the issue. So sometimes people are floored. They don't believe that this is true. Like you said earlier, they would never do this to us. So people just don't think that our government would propose such a horrendous thing. And they would think you're being fear-mongering or a conspiracy person or what have you. But we have so much media in the news tab, I believe it's called, on our website. So for those people that won't take your word for it, there's published information that's not coming from your mouth or my mouth that can help give credibility to what this is all about and the ramifications of it should it pass.
Yeah, and one of the big things that's important to recognize about this, and I'm going to speak directly to the faith community, especially the Christian community. People, you guys need to understand that if this constitutional amendment goes through and you are a Christian, it means that you will not be able to proselytize. You will not be able to tell God, tell people about the Lord. You will not be able to tell them about Jesus. If anybody says, oh, well, I'm offended that they were talking about Jesus, they can and will put you in jail. We've already seen this type of activity happen in other states. So we, as the Christian community, need to start standing up and saying, no, we will not tolerate this type of chicanery, and we will not tolerate this type of misleadingness, which this whole constitutional amendment, Prop 1, is a complete misnomer. It is a lie from the pits of hell that is going to work on eroding the fabric of what we consider to be a decent society, which we already know it's not that decent right now. It's pretty messed up, and we're working hard to try to fix it. But imagine not being able to practice your religion because they don't want your church in their neighborhood. Just imagine. And I say this because when you get this constitutional amendment in there, that is the type of stuff that it opens up. My church itself is in a heavily alphabet neighborhood, okay? They might not want us there, okay? Because we preach the gospel. We are a Bible-believing church. But the neighborhood predominantly is all about that alphabetism and that flag life, okay? And not even the normal flag. We're talking about the ones with all the different sigils on it that look like they're trying to summon a demon. It's insane. But we're there. But if they say that they don't want us there, then they can get rid of us. And this is something that we need to understand. But it's not just that. If you speak up, let's say that they've got all these furries and stuff that consider themselves to be, I'm a fox or I'm a bird or whatever. Let's say that you tell somebody that that's not real, that that's not a thing that's real. You can go to jail for that because now you're violating their rights. How dare you tell them what's not real and what is? So we need to be very cautious. If they want to break this down into smaller laws, like if they really cared about abortion, and they wanted to enshrine abortion, they would just do that. But this isn't really about that. It's about the fact that they do not want you to be able to say, hey, abortion is wrong. They don't want you to be able to say that because if this is instituted, you will not be able to say that because if you do, you risk the threat of being arrested and thrown in jail. Like, this isn't something that is make-believe. This isn't something that's poof ethereal in the air somewhere. This is something real that is here, that is happening right now. And it's not a conspiracy theory. It is a conspiracy fact. And that's what people need to understand. This is a real proposition. This is a real constitutional amendment they are trying to implement. And it's very interesting. It's very interesting. And I'll say this, Sash. Excuse me, Sash. What? I didn't notice that it didn't say in there. There was no protection for specifically for Black Americans in there anywhere. Was there?
Well, the current equal protection clause, that is race, religion, creed, that's in there.
So to that note, if that's already in there, why do we need an anti-Asian hate law? Why do we need that law if it's already in our Constitution? We didn't need it.
We didn't. We needed to uphold the Constitution. We needed to uphold. We don't need to keep amending and changing it. We need to read it and uphold it. The Constitution itself it provides limitations in the scope of what government can do. It limits the government. It's not to have the government continue to take more power over the people. That's not what the Constitution was ever designed to do. It was there. The Constitution defines the limitation and scope of our government. And so none of these amendments are needed. Okay. What they're doing is they're protecting their right to encroach and infringe on the people. They're giving themselves that constitutional crystallized authority to do those things.
Now, I'd like to, before we get ready to get off of here, I'd like to put this out here. This is the text from the preamble of the New York State Constitution. We, the people of the state of New York, grateful to the Almighty God, excuse me, let me rephrase. Let me say that again. We, the people of the state of New York, grateful to the Almighty God for our freedom, in order to secure its blessings, do establish this Constitution. So right there is the Lord our Father Almighty, right in the beginning of the Constitution. That is the basis for our state and the foundation on which we are built as a state. And this amendment to the Constitution is definitely far afield from where we started as a nation. So I encourage you, please check out the website. What was the website one more time?
ProtectKidsNY.com.
Find out more, see how you can support, and see how you can get more information out to other people. Make sure you share this, like this, and get it out to more people. Let them know, say, hey, there's somebody that's speaking about real serious issues that we don't get to hear much about. And whatever platform you're on, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We'll catch you guys next week. We'll have another great episode for you guys. You guys be blessed, be well, and remember, stand up, speak up, don't shut up, take action. Catch you guys later.
And vote no on Prop 1.
That's it. Vote no on Prop 1. We'll catch you later.